Hello students. So today we shall continue with the approximate modeling of slabs. In the previous video we had seen the approximate analysis. So now we will see the approximate modeling of the slabs wherein how the approximation is done while doing the modeling of the slabs. Now here we can see the structures that do not depend on the transverse bending of the transverse bending resistance of the slabs as a part of the lateral load resisting system. These slabs they will serve as the rigid diaphragms. So we consider the slab as a rigid diaphragms that do not depend on the transverse bending resistance of the slabs. So they are considered as a rigid diaphragms that will transfer. So they will we consider that these slabs are as the rigid diaphragms which transfer the horizontal loading. Okay, whatever horizontal loading is acting, it is being transferred by the vertical elements. Okay, so these slabs we serve it as rigid diaphragms that will transfer the horizontal loading to the vertical elements and they will hold the structural plan in shape so that it does not translate and twist. Then next, the slab will serve to constrain the horizontal displacements of the vertical components. So due to the horizontal or the lateral loading, the slab will see that the horizontal displacement of the vertical components, that is the columns and all, the displacement does not take place at each floor. Okay, that is related to two horizontal displacements, and the rotation of the slab. So when we consider in 3D analysis, the in plane, rigidity, whatever rigidity of the slab is there, it is represented by a horizontal frame. Okay, it is represented by horizontal frame of rigid beams, which will be joining the vertical elements at each floor. So that we can see in this figure here. So it is given horizontal plane of rigid frame. So these are the horizontal frame, these straight lines. Okay. So 1, 2 is mentioned here. So here we can see this is column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4, 5, 6, 7. These 5, 6, 7 are the shear walls. So in between they are the rigid frames. So here we write it. So when we show the representation of the slab diagram in the modeling, we say it as these columns representing the rigid frames. Okay, 1, 2, then 3, 4. Here we can see these are again the columns representing the braced frames. So here the braced frames are there, 3 and 4. So these will be the columns representing braced frames. 5, 6 and 7, they are the columns which are representing the shear walls. Then the line which is joining these, okay, you can see the straight line, that is the horizontal plane rigid frame which is representing the floor slab. So that is mentioned here. In 3D analysis, the in-plane rigidity of that slab will be represented by this horizontal frame of the rigid beams which will be joining these vertical elements. So if computer analysis is there, if rigid frame option is available for rigid in-plane slab, then this will become a simpler and more accurate results will be getting. That is when we do the modeling. So this is in case of the in-plane effects. That is the plane, whatever plane is there where the effects are taking place will be in plane. That is the loading will be in the same plane there. Then we have the transverse bending effects. So now in this case, that is the flat plate structures. Okay, whatever flat plate structures are there, and the structures which are with shear walls, that is, it may be coupled by the slabs. Okay, they will employ or they will be having the transverse bending stiffness of the slab, which will be part of the lateral load resisting. So they will resist the transverse bending stiffness, and which will be similar to girders of the rigid frame, the in-plane rigidity of the slab to hold. So they will also see that the plan, okay, or the plan shape of the building is in the same manner. It does not change. Okay, it does not change the shape. So that is the in-plane rigidity of the slab should be such that it will hold the shape of the or the plan shape of the building. Then in modeling, when you go for the modeling, the bending action, okay, of the slabs, the bending action of the slabs between inline columns, okay, whatever, like in a line if the columns are there, or the walls, they can be represented by a connecting beam of equivalent flexural stiffness. So here in this figure you can see here, this is these dotted lines which is shown here, they are the connecting beam equivalent to slab bending stiffness. So that is shown here. The bending action which is of the slab which is taking place with the inline columns, if the columns are inline, they can be represented by a connecting beam. This is connecting, so that connecting beam which is there, it is having the same equivalent bending stiffness or that as that of the slab. So this model, it will give the correct deflections. Okay, it will give the horizontal deflections, and also it gives the vertical, that are what are the forces in the vertical members. But it will give only the concentrated moments and shears when applied to the slabs. So when we consider the slabs, it gives the concentrated moments and shears. Next, the next is modeling for continuum analysis. So this is also a type of the modeling which is done in case of the approximate analysis. So whatever we are seeing till now, it is for the approximate analysis. Okay, this is not the accurate one. So now here, modeling for continuum analysis. So here in this, the cases will be as for certain structures with uniform properties. That is, if a tall structure is there which is having a uniform property throughout its height. Okay, it is having the repetitive pattern throughout the height. So that time we can go for the continuum analogy model. So this type of the models, they can be used they can be used for the structures which are having the uniform properties throughout the height. And this model we say it as continuum analogy models, and they will give they can be analyzed by the differential equation. Okay, here it is. So there in the previous one it was a simple equation, here it is the closed solution of characteristic differential equations. Now here you can see this is a tall structure wherein here this part is a shear wall as well as this part is a shear wall. So this is the connecting beam, the beam which is connecting both the shear walls here. So here it is represented how the shear wall 1, shear wall 2, and this connecting beam which is there, which is connecting the shear wall, it is represented by a continuum with equivalent flexural and shear stiffness. So it is represented by a continuum material which is having the flexural and the shear stiffness, equivalent flexural and shear stiffness. So now the horizontal slab and the beams which are connecting these vertical elements. So it is shown here, the horizontal slab and the beams connecting the vertical elements, they are smeared as continuous connecting medium. So this is shown here, and that is called as a continuum, which is having the same stiffness properties, and they will represent the variation of the structure over the height. Okay, they as the it is repetitive, so it will give the variation of the structure over the height. It gives rapid approximate solutions. Okay, it gives the rapid results, and as it is an approximate method, so it will give the approximate solutions, and it will provide the better understanding of the structure behavior. Okay, the behavior of the structure will be understood in a better manner. Then this can be applied to the structures such as coupled wall. Okay, so here we have seen it is a coupled wall, or also for the coupled wall and the wall frame. So here you can see here it is shear wall in the second, and here is a rigid frame. So connecting beams are there, or the connecting links are there. So when we go for the equivalent continuum model, here it is shown. This is the flexural column, that is the equivalent flexural column. Here it is the equivalent shear column. Okay, and in between is the continuous linking medium. Okay, this is the continuum model here. So it is in coupled wall, the connecting beams will be represented by continuum with equivalent bending and shear properties, so having the same shear properties. So in wall structure, in the wall frame structure here, Here you can see the wall frame structure connecting links, and this is the equivalent contour model. So in the wall frame structure, the connecting links between the wall and the frame, they are represented by horizontal incompressible medium. Okay, whereas the frames are smeared in the shear property of equivalent shear column. It is shown here. So this is given as the equivalent shear column. The frame, the rigid frame, it is shown as a equivalent shear column, and the shear wall here also it is shown as the equivalent flexural column. So now next is the study of accurate analysis. So now till now we have seen is all about the approximate analysis. So now we shall see how the modeling is done for the accurate analysis. So it is necessary for the intermediate and the final stages of design that whatever results they are obtained, that is the structural deflections and the member forces, they should give an approximate or the accurate results. Okay, to a certain extent they should give the accurate results. So as we have a wide variety of structural analysis programs, the different softwares available. So these wide availability of the structural analysis and the uh, powerful computers, it is possible to solve the large and the complex structural models. So now in this accurate, what happens is we need to do a detailed analysis. We cannot make any approximations. We have to go for detailed analysis. So here the models which we prepare will become complex and they will be large. So for that, the structural analysis program is capable of solving it. So now in this, the model which is there for analysis, it should represent a detailed way. That is, as I said, the model should be presented in a more detailed way. All the major active components of the prototype structure, the important ones, that is all the columns, walls, beams, connecting slabs, all the details should be mentioned. All the uh, details of these columns, walls, and the connecting beams, they should be mentioned and they should be present in the model. So now here this accurate analysis, it will offer a variety of finite elements for structural modeling. So here some of the gross approximations which are used for preliminary analysis, such as we assume the braced frame, we represent it as single column, rigid frame we represent single columns. So these all two approximates we make it for approximate. In detail what we do is we consider here the finite elements. Okay. So now whatever representation we do, it will be with the finite element modeling. So for accurately representing the high-rise structures, a three-dimensional program with beam elements. So here in the accurate analysis, we need is beam elements, quadrilateral member elements, or the membrane elements. These all will be sufficient here. So now in this, I'll show you here. First we shall see here. This is the beam element. So here the representation will be in this manner. This is a beam. These are shown as the X, Y and the Z, the rotations. So this is the quadrilateral membrane element. Okay, here you can see is quadrilateral membrane element. This is a truss element and this is a quadrilateral plate bending element. So these are the different finite elements which we are going to use for, or which we will be using for the accurate analysis. Now one more I'll show you here. This is called as the shell elements, the beam elements, rigid elements, truss elements, a single line shown here. Then membrane elements you can see here. This is a membrane element. These are the nodes for the membrane element. This part is a membrane. This is the truss element which is joining. You can see same way here. It is shown detailed manner. Membrane. These are the beam elements. Okay, hinges or the nodes here. So now here what we do is the beam elements, they are used to represent the beams and columns. Okay, so now here these beam elements which are there, we use this to represent the beams and columns in the modeling. Okay, it is shown here, beams and columns. We used to represent the beams and columns by making their inertia very small. Okay, their moment of inertia is very small, or else by releasing their end rotation. So they can be also be used to represent the truss members. So these beam elements we represent for beams, columns and for truss members. Next is membrane elements. So here this is the second one. This is a membrane element. One more you can see is here. this is the membrane element. So this membrane element, it can be used for representation of the shear walls. So that is, if you want to represent shear wall and the wall assemblies, we show it as the membrane element, and it will include the incompatible mode option to allow for characteristic in-plane bending of shear and in-plane bending of for the shear walls. Okay, that is the bending of the shear wall, or the in-plane bending of the shear walls option, that is, we consider it as the membrane element. Then suppose if it is a truss element, quadrilateral plate elements, combined member plate elements are available. So these are the different elements which we can use to represent the model in the accurate analysis that is mentioned here. It can be used to represent respectively the truss element, slabs in bending, shear wall subjected to out of plane. Okay, if it is shear wall in plane, we can go for membrane element. If it is out of plane, you can go for the that is quadrilateral plate elements. As we have seen in the picture, once again, beam element, this is the quadrilateral membrane element, this is the truss element representation, and this is the quadrilateral plate bending element. So these whatever shown are, these are the rotations. Okay, so that is nothing but the x rotation, y, z axis. Same way here. So now, while studying this accurate analysis, we shall study for high-res structural components and assemblies and their representation for finite elements for different frames. Okay, so for different frames, how do we use it? Now suppose this is for a plane frame. Okay, so plane frame, it is the simplest model which is having both the columns and the beam members. Okay, it will be having the columns and the beam members. They will be represented by the beam elements. So here we have seen. So rigid frame which is there, it is shown where the columns and the beams, they are represented as beam elements. So this is columns. Okay, these all are represented beam elements. These beams are represented by beam elements. Now in this case, the shear deformations, they are neglected. Okay, except, so whatever shear deformations are taking place, they will be neglected, except only in case of the beams and its span to depth ratio of less than about 5. Then the results which we obtain from this for the plane frames or the rigid frames, the results will include vertical and horizontal displacements and the vertical plane rotations of the nodes. So whatever nodes are there, the vertical plane rotations and the horizontal and the vertical displacements of the nodes with the axial forces, shear force and the bending moments. Okay, so you will be having axial force, shear force and the bending moments here results. Then if it is a braced frame, now in this case, it is a braced frame which is shown using a truss and a beam element. So here you can say this is the braced frame. You can see the bracings provided here. So beam elements, outer ends with rotational releases. Okay, and these are the beam elements. So now the beams and the columns, they will be represented by beam elements, and these bracings which are there, they can be represented by a truss element. Okay, so what is given here is, in a braced frame, the braces are represented by truss elements. Okay, or you can provide it as beam element, providing it a smaller inertia, and columns are represented by beam elements, and the beams, they are represented by beam elements with their end rotations are released, and the results of these truss elements will give only the axial forces. Okay, for the truss elements, whatever results you get, it will be having only the axial forces there. So this is just how we do the modeling or the representation of the actual model, actual structure to a model for the analysis. This is in case of the accurate one. Now suppose if it is a plane shear wall. Okay, now in plane shear wall, which is similar to the approximate analysis. Okay, in case of approximate analysis, we have seen how the representation is done. So similar to the modeling of the walls for the approximate analysis, a tall slender shear wall, okay, a tall which is slender and shear wall that is not connected by beams to other parts of the structure. Here you can see it is not connected to other parts of the structure. It can be represented by beams. to other parts. So here it is, we have seen in the approximate. Same way here, but it will be represented by the beam elements. Okay, the shear wall not connected by beam or other parts of the structure. It can be modeled for the accurate analysis by a stack of beam elements. So this is a stack of beam elements which will be located at the centroidal axis. Same, okay, centroidal axis of the wall, and it will be assigned the principal inertia and the shear wall, shear areas of the wall. So this beam element which will be there, it will be assigned the principal inertia and the shear area of the wall. The next is the shear walls connected by beams. The shear walls which are connected by beams to other parts of the structure, it is represented by vertical stack of beam elements which are located on the centroidal axis of the wall with a rigid horizontal beam element. So this rigid arm which is there, rigid horizontal beam element attached to the framing levels to represent the effect of the wall width. The next is, in case of the beam which is connected with wall, okay, in case of the beams which are connected with the wall, the axial forces will be induced in the wall. Okay, so now when we can here see shear wall is there, okay, and in case beams are connected with it, so in that case the axial forces will be present in the wall, and hence the analogous column which is to be assigned an axial area, inertia and the shear area. Okay, so whatever column that is we represent by beam element, it should have is axial area, inertia and the shear area. Okay, so this is similar to the approximate analysis, but only here in this case we will be representing these as the beam elements and assigning the inertias and the shear area as same as that of the structure. So now this is walls that are not slender and which are having the openings. Okay, here you can see in this picture there is a structure wherein the walls are not slender as well as there is a certain openings present. So in that case we represent by assembly of plane stress membrane element. It is represented by the membrane elements. Here you can see the shell or the membrane planar elements. These are there, they will be represented as shell or the plane membrane elements here. And because the segments of the shear wall and the membrane element, they are used to model it, they will be subjected to in-plane bending. Okay, so it will be the same plane, so it is in-plane bending and incompatible mode elements that will be formed to deformations include deformations give more accurate results. So they will give more accurate results by allowing a rectangular elements of greater height and width proportions. So due to that they will give the accurate or the correct results. So now the results of the plane stress elements will include horizontal vertical displacement at the nodes. They will also have the direct stresses, shear stresses, either at the corners, or the mid sides of the elements. At the mid side or the corners, you'll be having the direct stresses or the shear stresses. And suppose if you have the computer program done that does not include plane stress elements, shear wall they can be modeled as an analogous frame and which will be assembled with beam elements. So they will be assembled with all the beam elements. So these beam elements will be connecting and the stresses resulting will be usually 1 to 2% of those from the membrane element model analysis. So when you go for membrane element, whatever result you get, so and you go for the beam element, these the stresses results they'll be usually 1 to 2% of those of the membrane element model analysis. Now suppose if you have the that is the non-rectangular walls, they can be modeled. Okay, they are not particular rectangular, they are non-rectangular walls. They can be modeled by using the quadrilateral elements. And if you want a more detailed stress analysis for that in a particular region, we can go for a finer mesh. Okay, here you can see a finer mesh can be provided if you want a detailed analysis in that part. And these non-rectangular can be done by the quadrilateral elements. So now for accuracy, quadrilateral elements should be proportioned, okay, to be as close as possible to get the equal sided parallelogram. So they should be, the mesh means it should be, a finer mesh should be present so that you get the accurate results for that. So now when modeled by membrane element, so suppose if it is modeled by membrane element, shear walls with in-plane connecting beams, they will require special consideration. That is, shear walls which are there, you require this special consideration. So for that, membrane elements, they do not have a degree of freedom. Okay, do not have a degree of freedom to represent that in-plane rotation of their corners. A beam element connecting to the node of a membrane element is effectively connected by a hinge. So we usually connected by the, at the hinge it will be connected there. The remedy for this, that is, since the difference will be there, for that we provide an auxiliary beam. So here you can see an auxiliary beam will be provided, okay, to the edge of the wall element. So a remedy for this is adding a fixous flexurally rigid auxiliary beam to the edge of the wall element. At the edge of the wall element we provide this auxiliary beam. The adjacent ends of these auxiliary beam and the external beams, they are both constrained to rotate. So they will be constrained against the rotation with the wall at the edge node. At the edges, they will be constrained for the rotation. That is, the auxiliary beam and the external beams are both constrained. And the rotation of the wall as defined, okay, by these transverse displacements at the ends of auxiliary beam and moment are transferred to the external beam. So whatever displacements at the ends of these beams will be transferred to the external beam. Now this three-dimensional frame and wall structure we shall see in the next video. Thank you.